Hi guys, it's Silvarret again, and today I'm going to do some supports, and the game is kinda lagging right now, but the thing is, basically, last time everyone said that I was complaining too much about how my station really sucked, so I'm kinda sorry for doing that. Okay, my station is beautiful. It's oh, I'm crying, nearly crying. No, basically, I don't really like this station that much, but I know it's a tutorial, and I know that many of you have commented that you actually like it, so I guess that as long as people really like it, and it's not that bad after all, that it's okay and it can stay. And I might add a little, like, some details some places. For example, the dormers need some fixing, and I need some extra windows and extra details. But I'll do that stuff later on, because people have been waiting for me to do the supports. So that's what I'm going to do right now. Right, so the first thing that I would usually do is take CoasterJoe's B&M connectors, and this is a set that you really need if you want to make some, especially, well, of course, only for B&M coasters, except for those Intamin coasters and Joe Vanilla coasters that use the same track. But basically, for if you're confused about the situation right here, for any coaster type that uses this kind of track, this is the support set that you're gonna want to use. Since, as you can see, it perfectly connects to the bottom of the track, which is because it's a B&M, well, it's a B&M connector set. And I don't see everyone using these things, but I would recommend you to use these things, because these are the things that you use to connect the track with the supports. And I think I just called them track connectors, but they're called support connectors. But in any case, that's not too important. So what I generally do is I place these track connectors on every, well, square where I want to have a support later on. Now, for a lift hill in the beginning, I'd usually take about 3.5 to 3 squares, maybe even 4 or 5 squares per, like, as the distance between these connectors. So I'm at 3.5 right here, so 3.5 from that point should be right here, and so on. But I did kind of notice that the closer the coaster is to the ground, there's a slightly smaller difference in the distance between the connectors. So usually at the top of the lift hill I take like a distance of 4, simply because it looks better. Though in this case I'm probably not going to do that, because this coaster is very small, and it would kind of look weird if on such a small lift hill I would use different distances. Right, so this should all line up, and it does. So because this one is on the line right here, it should be in the middle of the square right here. And instead of using a gentle or steep one, it seems like I'm going to have to use a gentle to steep one right here. And I've seen a lot of people have difficulties with this set, because it uses particular connectors for every single piece of track that you have in the game. For example, this is a gentle to steep track, and there's of course a gentle to okay, there's of course a gentle to steep connector in this set. So well, this is the easier thing, but for example, there are also cobras and loopings that you want to support, and you really need to get some specific connectors for every specific tile. So that's something that kinda makes working with the set a bit hard. But it does make it very versatile, so that's very handy. So for big drops like these, where you have this very smooth, gradual, steep drop, I would usually use a gentle to steep paired with a flat one on the bottom, like this. Now it should kind of match, but you can also use a flat to gentle, because it's just a little bit higher. Now for the Cobra Roll right here, the way I usually support these is I take a half loop support right here, and I take 2 Corkscrew Supports for the Corkscrews. Now I've seen many people actually just place 1 support in the middle right here, but this is not very realistic. It probably can't, yeah, I don't think it really can take the weight of the corkscrew. Yeah, and there I go again, saying yeah again. Like, people posted comments about that as well. Well, Screw it. Yeah is a beautiful word. I can abuse any beautiful word. Nobody's going to stop me. I'm an independent black woman. Oh yeah, okay, right. Now for those of you wondering why I'm kinda sounding kind of awkward speaking to myself right now, I'm in a Skype call and people are listening to me and they're laughing their asses off and being annoying little brats. And that's because they wanted me to record this in a Skype call with them in the Skype call to laugh at me commentating. Yeah, so basically that's that. Right, so I'm just going to ignore them and yeah, continue with this. Yeah, and you can see that I'm already lost in the set because I'm trying to find the half loop piece. And okay, this is not working out. Okay, right, so now these connectors actually have two pieces, and you're gonna want to change the color of the top piece to the color of the track, and the color of the bottom piece to the color of the supports. And like I did with all the supports on the lift hill, you've got a top piece for that, and you've got a bottom piece for that as well, and the same counts for that. You're gonna want a top piece to have the same color as the track, and the bottom piece to have the same color as the supports. Right, so now for these large corkscrews, I'm going to choose whichever corkscrew, whichever direction they're heading. Now this one seems to be a left one, so I wanna have to build a left connector right here, which is kind of hard matching to the height of the track, but it's not too much of a big job. Right, so you have to do the same thing on this side, and that's about I think 1/3 of the ride connected already. And usually the way I do this is, just to make this job not too boring, is I kind of cut the layout in pieces where I think like, okay, I'm going to do 1/3 of the ride, I'm going to connect 1/3 of the ride using these connectors, and then I'm going to build the rest of the supports and then use connectors on the other part of the ride. So that's what I'm going to do right now as well, just to make sure that it all looks nice and it just all fits. So I'm just going to build the supports for this part already. Just going to connect this with a vertical one, and it seems like there's quite a big gap right here, so I'm going to have to use a medium connector on that in a little bit. Alright, so now this is probably not even no, this is not a good idea. The way I usually do this, because that's how B&Ms work in real life, is B&Ms actually, the lift hills consist of mostly either 12H or 8H, or well, H8 or H12 bars, depending on how high they are basically. Now they usually don't have any vertical beams, so what I just did, you can do that if you pair it with a 8H beam for example, but I don't like doing that. I prefer using this kind of method. And as you can see, it looks kind of wide now because it's about 3 squares wide for a about 12 squares high piece of track, so I don't really like the look of that, so I'm going to use a H12 for this one. And you don't need to worry about whether it actually whether it actually fits on the ground and whether you can actually place a footer down right here, because I'm going to talk about the footers later on, but you don't have to worry about that at this point because there's a B&M footer set that has placement for about every single place of a Roller Coaster Tycoon 3 tile. Right, so now the top of the lift hill of a B&M does kind of a weird thing where it uses diagonal beams that kind of point towards each other in this kind of way. So this is what I always like to do, and it looks kind of cool. It makes the lift hill look a little bit less boring, and it makes it look more sturdy as well, because basically you've got the forces of the roller coaster directing, like going in this direction on this side, and then it needs to support the track to the other side on the other side, of course, so you kind of get that circle going on, so it kind of looks like supporting a hill like that. It's just a, I don't know, it's a physics thing and I suck at physics. Right, so now for this part of the ride, we can actually use some vertical beams because yeah, for the less high places in the roller coaster, it's pretty common for B&M coasters to just have vertical beams, except for when it's, for example, a dive machine, but I might cover that later on. But for now, just forget about that, and you can just use some vertical beams right here. Now, these looping parts, I think, have some weird alignments. Yeah, they're on the edge. Living on the edge. Oh, wow. So, you're gonna use these edge parts for this, and an edge part in Moby Steel Jungle means that you cannot connect any angled beam to it. So I'm going to have to use some either H4 or H8 beams, just because simply I can't connect the diagonal beams to this. So I feel like, yeah, 4H looks kind of decent. Now for the corkscrews, if you want to use a vertical beam, a center beam, it looks like a center beam. By the way, if you're in doubt about the placement of a connector, just go to a vertical view and look where it lines up, and I can see that it's in this square and that it's a center beam. And as you can see, that's really, really close to the track. Well, it kind of, yeah, it does go through the track, so that's not very healthy. If your guests are going to ride this, they're probably going to die, and you don't want that. So in this situation, I normally take either an 8H or a 4H beam on the side, and in this case, because it's a very small Cobra loop, so I think a 4H should do the job, but I'm not entirely sure. Now it does look kind of weird, so I might try something else. Okay, getting this to line up is a bit hard again. Oh wait, damn it. Doesn't seem like this thing wants to work. Let's see. Okay, yeah, I got it. Right, so now, yeah, this looks too wide. I'm going to have to try some 8H. Though I'm not sure about that either. I wish that at this point there was a 6H, but that's not the situation right here. We need to use either 4H or 6 or an 8H. So in case of a doubt and you want to use a 6H but you can't do that, then what I would normally do is use a 4H on one side, on the side where it doesn't cross the track, and use an 8H on the other side where it doesn't cross the track anyway. So I'm going to do the same thing right here, as soon as I get this thing lined up. I'm going to use a 4H extended to get it over there, and then on the other side use an 8H. Right, so now that looks pretty decent, although it does look kind of wide and weird. But in any case, I'm going to continue on using the same thing on the other side. So 4H on one side and 8H on the other side. Right, so that's the Cobra loop, which does look nicer from some directions than from other ones. But in any case, it's supported well enough to carry its own weight. So now we're on to the looping, and doing a looping is actually really hard in this game, since I didn't really find any set yet that actually had great pieces to do this with. I mean, there is of course the connector set, but the connector set doesn't really have great looping pieces, and yeah, I can show that right now. Right, so RCT just crashed, and you didn't notice of course because I kinda skipped that, I couldn't record that, but I had to redo everything, so I had to redo the supports as well, so I really hope that I did them exactly in the way that I had them before. And I'm going to very quickly just finish up this episode right here, and I'm going to finish it well, I just have to finish these supports and do the looping supports. So, like I did before, I'm just going to do the edge supports real quick here, and then that should be done. Also, I added this little support at the bottom right here so that it's symmetrical. Right, but moving on to the looping, there is a connector piece for the looping, of course, but I don't really like it too much. It doesn't look that sturdy, but it's good enough, and it's quite realistic enough, as realistic as one might possibly get it in this game. So you want to take the, where is it, small loop something, the small loop left, right, and then you're gonna want to wait. Oh, well, that's great. The looping goes left, but you have to take the thing right. Okay, might remember that. It depends of, no, it doesn't even depend on, well, yeah, it does depend, yeah. Okay, it's right from the direction where the coaster comes from. So, anyway, you want to place these where they align, that is. Which is quite low. It's in the exactly, well, it's probably still in the lower half of the loop actually. Right there, which is also a edge placement, if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, it is an edge placement, and this is exactly the one problem that I have with this placement, because so far it actually looks good enough, one say. But the thing is that Moby Steel Jungle does have edge placements like this, which you can align with these, but it does not have a straight edge connecting kind of supports. And what I mean with that is it's really hard to actually add a nice support over here, because you can't take the diagonal ones, because those don't really match up with the edgy ones. Edgy, oh, that came out wrong. The edge ones, basically, and the regular ones, they're not on the grid like that either. So you're going to have to take a H4 edge and connect it like this, which is kind of awkward if you ask me. So this is one possibility that you can go for, and this looks quite okay from the sides, but if you're going to take like a front cam, it looks like this, which is kind of weird, which is why I don't like this. And there's no real other possibility other than, I'm just going to quickly sketch this for those who want to see this, placing a support, I think it's right here, placing a support either here or here, and then taking a small diagonal quarter piece and using that to connect it to the track, and then you can actually do anything with this. But the reason why I don't like that is because then the support will have a really weird placement, and you also don't use the B&M connectors that are a lot more realistic than using Moby Steel Jungle as a connector. But yeah, that'll be it for today, because I'm on about almost 18 minutes once I'm done with this. And I'm sorry for not being too productive. I try to be a little bit more productive, but I do want to tell everything of every part of the process of making a coaster, and that does include the supports, which can sometimes be horrendous, especially at this point where my game has crashed and I had to redo them. So sorry for all that, but next time I'm going to try to nearly finish this. I hope that I can actually finish it, because this is not too much work. Generally, the lower the track is, the easier it is to add some supports, because if it's really low, then you don't really need to add anything like side beams or cross beams to really support it. So that's that for today, and I'm hoping to see you in the next episode.